Hi everyone, I'm here with Ravneet, my little boy's swimming teacher, and we are going to be talking about baby and preschool swimming. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and talk to you a little bit about puddle ducks, and then afterwards we're going to go through some questions.
Hi, I'm Rav. I own Puddle Ducks in West Hertfordshire, Luton and Dunstable. As Kaylee mentioned, we do baby and preschool swimming as well as aquanatal classes. Just to give you a little bit of background, Puddle Ducks is a nationwide franchise. We're up and down the UK, and it was initially started over 10 years ago by two ladies up north. So, to tell you a little bit about the aquanatal side of things, we launched that in January, and it's a really wonderful beginning to the Puddle Ducks journey. So once the ladies start coming, it's great for them both physically and mentally to prepare themselves for their labour. It's also a great way to sort of make some friends and meet those other mummies that you can hopefully build a relationship with and start to bring them to the baby and preschool swimming classes, of course.
And we're going to go through our questions now. So the first one is, what age can I take my baby swimming?
The youngest baby that I've taught so far was 9 days old, so there is no age limit in terms of when they can start. They can start pretty much straight away. The way you've got to look at it is they've just spent 9 months in water, so they take to it really naturally, so the sooner the better. Specifically for ourselves, that we tend to keep them in our classes until they are turning 5 years old. So we focus very much on that baby and preschool age, so that in itself is fine. The one thing that some parents do have concerns about with starting their child swimming so young is immunisations.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, so the NHS guidelines have changed recently because the immunisations that they're getting don't really have anything to do with waterborne diseases. They don't need to have had them before they come for their swimming lessons.
I did notice that on the site, and then I contacted you and we kind of went from there.
Yeah.
But I wish I'd started Bryson earlier.
Yeah, it's always great, the sooner the better. But
yeah.
That having been said, the fact that you start at any age, it's proactive. It's better than not. Essentially, yeah, absolutely.
And then, do they dunk them under the water and make you let them go?
So we've got a very gentle approach with submersions. The very first lesson that any of our babies come to, we won't be putting them underneath the water. What we do is we teach our parents a submersion signal. So typically what we do is we get one of these lovely cups and we have all of our babies in a lovely big circle with their parents. Our submersion signal is both a verbal signal and a silent signal. So we teach them this signal, pouring the water over their head. And typically, in that first lesson, it's just about getting used to the fact that they will be surrounded by water.
Yeah.
We then say, right, go away, practice that in the bath between now and next week. And when they come for their second lesson, we start to do gentle dip downs just to get them used to it. Now, the one thing with our submersions is that we will never put a crying baby under the water. So when you give them their signal and they start to cry, that means they've recognised the signal, they don't want to go under, and that's fine. Because if you keep putting them under when they don't want to, that will essentially rock their confidence, which we don't want to do. We're not here to regress anybody. But if you leave them to it, within a couple of weeks, they've seen everybody else going under and they happily go back under.
Because Bryson had his on and off days when he was happy to go under.
Yeah.
And then other days when we were just like, no, we're just bobbing along in the water.
And that's fine. And the other thing to think about is if they're having a particularly bad day, it's not necessarily about the swimming. I mean, if you look at the age that Bryson is at the moment,
teething.
You're looking at teething, you're looking at, I've got a tummy ache, or, I'm hungry, or I didn't take a long enough nap, or I didn't sleep last night. And
all of them.
All of the above. Yeah.
So, is a normal swimsuit okay, or do we need something special?
Right, so most swim schools will advise a double nappy system. So again, if you look at the age that Bryson's at, when they're teething, you can get all kinds of messy things coming out from down below. Don't want any poo accidents. That's a whole closing the pool situation. So what we typically do is we get them into these little disposable swim nappies, which you can buy in any supermarket or pharmacy, typically. This just means that obviously it's waterproof, so like normal nappies, it won't expand in the water. On top of that, they wear something called aqua nappies. These aqua nappies are also referred to as happy nappies. They're happy nappies indeed. They're nice and tight on the waist and nice and tight on the thighs. Yeah. And again, that just means that if
extra protection,
something leaks out of here, definitely not coming out of here. So this is what we would say is compulsory for any child that is not toilet trained. Now, anything more than that is typically up to the parent. So if you're going to be in a slightly cooler pool, we would advise that they wear a body warmer on top. So again, it's just a little wrap. It's just that extra protection around their body to keep that heat in. Now, in terms of the temperature of pools, ideally they want to be swimming in a pool that's no less than around 30 degrees in terms of the pool temperature itself. If they are going to be in something slightly less, definitely advise that you wear one of these.
And for the younger babies, then definitely.
I would say so. That having been said, once they're a little bit bigger, or once they're, if they're in a slightly warmer pool, you don't necessarily want to keep them too warm.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, when you go on holiday, the pool is never going to be that warm.
Yeah.
So it's good to, not get them too temperature sensitive. But yeah, these are really, really, really great.
Bryson just wears his Superman or Spider-Man outfit, doesn't he?
Which is absolutely fine. So if they're not necessarily a freezing cold child, a little wetsuit or even just a little swimming costume on top.
I think because he was struggling with just them, and then once he got the wetsuit, he was that little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I call them his Simon Cowell.
His Simon, they're lovely. They're right the way up to the top. So you got them nice and high. That's brilliant.
I don't think I'd want to go around with them on.
No, I don't know. They might suit you. Right, we're going to get a Kaylee sized one made especially for you from Puddle Duck.
Thank you.
So the other thing to think about as well with the temperature is it's more important the air temperature in a pool rather than the actual pool temperature, because if you think about it, when you get out of the pool you get cold quite quickly, and that's because of evaporation. So you're drying off and it takes your body heat with you. So if you're in a pool that's relatively warm but the air temperature's low, you need to keep nice and low in the water, and keep your little ones low in the water, because even if your shoulders are out, that heat's going to start to escape.
You get cold quick.
Absolutely. So always keep that towel right by the pool as well. So once you're out, wrap them up, just tilt them from side to side, drain the water out of their ears to make sure, there's no room for infection. Wrap them up, stick a nice hood on them, and you're good.
So how do we introduce a reluctant baby to water?
Right, so with this, it's very much about distraction, working on their confidence and going at their own pace and looking at each individual child's requirements. So if you've got a baby that is really, really upset and isn't happy in the water, it may be a case of keeping that baby close to you, giving them a little sing-song, lots of eye contact, skin contact. If you've got a baby that's perhaps Bryson's age and is not very happy in the water, I would say not always necessarily about the skin contact and eye contact. I would say the ducks. The ducks and the glove. I love the glove, the Puddle Ducks glove. So what we do is we've always got a lovely big bucket of toys by the side. So if they get upset, we always say remove yourself, go get yourself a duck or a watering can or a ball, have a little play, get the glove on, have a little tickle. Bryson loves this. And whenever you're ready and you're a little bit calmer, regroup. And the thing is, that's not necessarily about babies that are just reluctant to get in the water. Some babies are fine in the water, but just, again, have that wobble.
That one off day.
And they have that day, and it's just about go distract yourself. Now, with the slightly older kids, again, the toys always still work a treat, but the other thing is that we use a lot of distraction to keep their brains occupied and try and draw away from the fact that they're not happy in the water.
Yeah.
So, for example, what we might do is, for the older kids, is throw out a bunch of floating bricks and we'll stick them on these two woggles right in the centre there. And we'll say, right, little dippers, we're going to build a tower. Go and get those bricks, build them, bring them back and we'll build this tower. And they are so focused on going and getting those bricks that they've actually forgotten that, oh, I don't want to be in the water, or oh, I don't want to be on my woggles, and oh, I don't want to swim, you can't make me. It's like, actually, buddy, you're swimming.
Yeah.
Go get that brick, bring it back.
Because they're playing.
They're playing, and then again, there's loads of songs and loads of activities that just keep them really occupied.
Okay, so how many lessons create a confident baby?
That's a tricky one, because it's not a case of saying, right, I'll do a term's worth of classes. Once they're confident, we've done it.
Yeah.
We've nailed it. It's a continual process because, again, as you know, with Bryson, they can be confident, they can be happy, they can be fine, but anything can happen, and
Yeah.
they could easily lose that.
Lose it,
So
yeah.
it's about continuity, and it's about, you know, keeping that confidence nice and high, dealing with those wobbles as and when they
Yeah.
come, and you know, yes, we want them to be confident, but also we want to teach them to respect the water. We don't want them to be overconfident either.
No.
So it's just continually working on that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So are floats a good idea?
Right, so by floats, presumably you mean the armbands.
Armbands, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So armbands can create a false sense of security. So if you've got your little one in armbands and they're swimming away, they are being supported. They are not supporting themselves, and they will think that they are great swimmers. But if they fall into water and haven't got those armbands on, what will they do?
Yeah.
What could the potential outcome be? Okay, so what we do is we try and, again, get them onto things like this or the lovely long woggles.
Yeah.
Because rather than them being supported, they have to support themselves. And gradually we go from these 2 woggles under the arms to 1 woggle round here.
It just gives
to
them a
those
little bit
5
extra float,
yeah,
doesn't it?
absolutely. And then we work on that 5 metre badge. That having been said, don't get me wrong, you know, if I'm in St Lucia with my kids, there'll be the occasion where it's appropriate to perhaps stick them, you know, in that armband. But again, in those armbands, but you don't want to be doing it regularly.
No.
Because, you know, they'll think that they're invincible in the water, and actually they're not.
So are these lessons worth the money?
Right, well, there's the golden question. So, you know, there are so many different types of baby swimming lessons out there. You've got the calibre such as Puddle ducks, which is a little bit more high-end and, of course, a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
But to give you a bit of background as to how our lessons will differ from the slightly cheaper ones, I guess, is that with our classes, you're getting your value for money.
Yeah.
So every lesson that you come to will have a different lesson plan. Within that lesson plan, every activity we do will have different options and progressions. So essentially, we are working on every child as an individual.
Yeah.
So when Bryson is 3 years old, he'll have been swimming since he was tiny. He was about 3 months old when he started.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So he'll have been swimming since 3 months old. He could be sat next to a 3-year-old that has never swum before.
Yeah.
And that's fine. They'll do the same activity, they'll just do it differently, i.e. Bryson will do it a little bit more independently, somebody else would do it a little bit more supported.
Yeah.
So it's just working on them as an individual. The other thing that we focus on quite heavily in our lessons is personal survival. So every lesson you come to, we'll be teaching elements of personal survival. And one of the things that make us so unique is that once a term, we do our lovely pyjama parties. You love Kaylee in her pyjamas.
We have to dress up
Lovely.
too.
Everybody's in their pyjamas. It's fab. So the reason that we get everybody into their pyjamas, yes, it's great fun, but it's lesson as usual. The 3-year-olds love it, but what we're teaching them is if you fall into water with your clothes on, your buoyancy is going to change, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're in water, you can teach them personal survival all day long. But in the real life situation, they could panic at their sheer weight. So we're just teaching them, okay, you've fallen in. Look how heavy you are. But it's okay, because you know how to turn around and reach for that side and hold on and monkey to a point of safety and get yourself out.
Yeah.
So it's just reinforcing that personal survival. And we've actually been in the paper a couple of times for our personal survival classes. Yes. But again, it's like that caption says, it's the serious side to the poolside fun. So it's just making sure that, you know, they're coming away with, again, like I said, not just the logistics of how to swim, but actually, what happens if you fall into a duck pond? And we teach this even to the babies that are under 6 months, so right the way through the programs. Because again, if they're crawling into a duck pond, they're still going to feel that heaviness. But it's about, you know, can they float? Can they turn float? Or can they grab on and just hold on, irrespective of how heavy they are? So yeah, absolutely, you know, it's definitely worth the money because of the intensity and the technical side that goes into it. We've got in headquarters a fantastic technical team that put together all these lesson plans. Yeah. So if you think about it, we've got 5 programs in the baby and preschool classes, all dependent on their age. In those programs, you could have a 14-week term. That's 14 different lesson plans. That's 14 times 5 lesson plans that the teachers are learning. Yeah. The teachers go through a ridiculously intense training program, both for governing bodies as well as Puddle Ducks headquarters training, and then there's assessments, co-teaching, and it doesn't end there. Once they've had their assessment, they continue to co-teach and they continually assess. So it's just making sure that they are able to, you know, deliver the class perfectly, make sure they're progressing each child. Educating your parents on as to why you're doing this activity, making sure the parents know what they're getting, and just, you know, constantly making sure that there's water safety. So that's a lot for them to have to think about. So yeah, absolutely. It's I would definitely say it's worth the money.
I've remembered like one of Bryson's friends, mum's come to me and she was like, oh, I've just had the worst lesson ever. So I was like, oh, what's wrong? And she said the teacher come up to me and was like, oh, I've never done this before. And she said, I've stopped going, and I think not everything that's cheaper is going to be necessarily like that, but I definitely think you have to really look into where you're sending your children. Absolutely. And kind of look what they're going to be doing. If you're happy, if you just want your baby to have a bit of fun in the water, and the sing-song ones are fine, but personally I didn't want Bryson to be in my position where I hate the water.
You're not necessarily confident in the water.
So I don't swim, and that's fine, isn't it?
Absolutely fine.
So that's the first thing I phoned you. I was like, Rabbit, I can't swim, is it okay?
That's fine, and you'd be surprised at the amount of parents that bring their little ones along just because they're not confident.
Yeah, I didn't want Bryson to be
their kids to do like that. No, which is fine. And the thing is, even with the activities, there's options for you to have little underwater swims with them if you want. If you don't want to do it, but you want them to have that experience, the teacher will happily take it. I'll take Bryson and shoot off that wall under the water with him.
No, I was so worried about not being able to swim, but wanting him to be able to swim. And my mum wanted exactly the same. She wanted him to be confident and not be worried like I am. I don't want him to be scared of the water like I am. I just want him to be like, Mum, it's fine, I'm getting in.
I'm fine, don't worry. Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there, definitely.
Maybe you should do adult lessons for
me. Oh gosh, I'll stick you on a couple of these wobbles.
Thank you. So I hope you've liked our video. We'll leave all Ravneet's details below. You can contact her on her website and via the phone. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and like I said, all details will be left below. She also has a Twitter. Do you know your Twitter?
I do.
Both?
I've only got, yes, it'll be...
Oh, you've got your personal one.
Puddle Westhart.
There you go. So follow her, follow me, and then check out the website as well. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys, and thank you for watching.
Bye!
Bye!